Warning, warning, warning. In this installment, we're going to be going over the first 5 rounds. Each and every round, I'm going to give you a guy that you do not want to draft this year in best ball or in redraft. All right, so guys, get buckled in. Yo! Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to bring you the winning ingredients for our Do Not Draft series. In this one, this is going to be part 1. We're going through rounds 1 through 5, giving you a guy in each and every round that you will not and should not draft this year, right? And I'll give you some stats and reasoning why I am leaning that way. But before we dive into that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetsJetsD. Don't forget about that TikTok at Chef_D91. And don't forget about the Patreon. If you want slamming, red hot baseball picks, right now we are on fire. Last, 26 selections, 18 and 8. Get signed up right now for that Patreon. Not only will you be ready for MLB, you'll be getting ready for your fantasy football drafts with rankings. And you will be getting ready for the NFL season, where I'm going to have my best bets for this year and future bets for this year as well. I might throw in a WNBA future. I should throw that in right now. So if you want that, go to the link down below. The first guy we are going to avoid in round 1 will be Austin Eckler. Yes, the guy that has been RB2 and RB1 in back-to-back season. Things are a little bit different now. Yes, they do get a boost with Kellen Moore coming over from the Dallas Cowboys to the Los Angeles Chargers, installing this fast-paced, up-tempo offense. But also, what you're factoring in is that Austin Eckler has been awesome, absolutely outstanding. 206 attempts in 2021, 2004 and 2022. Hasn't reached that 1,000 rushing yard mark, but the key to Austin Eckler has been the receptions. 107 receptions last season, 722 yards, 18 TDs. That's why he was number 1. And in the season prior, had 70 receptions, 647 yards, and 20 touchdowns. There's a difference now this year with Austin Eckler, and we're going to look at some of the key factors. Last year, looking at the depth chart, it was injuries. Total injuries here for Austin Eckler that boosted him up. You had injuries to Keenan Allen. You had injuries to Mike Williams. Quentin Johnston wasn't here yet, but then they had to rely upon guys like Josh Palmer. Jalen Guyton was out, and the rest of these guys in this group were not there. So if you're looking back at Austin Eckler, he was absolutely forced to have over 100 receptions last year. That was astronomical. That's going to die down now because you're looking at this depth chart, and they added Quentin Johnston from TCU, someone that has major capabilities with yards after the catch. Another big body wide receiver to add to this wide receiver core, and you're banking on Keenan Allen, who was has been pretty healthy for the past couple of years. He has gotten away from that stigma of always being injured, and he was very consistent in his previous seasons. He got a little bit nicked up, came back, and finished the season very strong, all right? Mike Williams is always a proponent to being injured, but now you're throwing in Quentin Johnston, who has a lot of upside. You get another year under Josh Palmer's belt there. And you're looking at the tight end core, all right? Donald Parham is always a guy that's going to be a factor in the red zone. He should be coming back healthy. Gerald Everett was a big factor last year, 60 catches and over 600 yards. So everything is looking great now for the Los Angeles Chargers in this offense for Justin Herbert. All right, so this year, I'm going to say there's going to be a downturn in Austin Eckler's production. I'm not paying that price right now because I do not expect him to do it 3 years in a row to have over 20 fantasy points because the target share, I believe that's going to die down a little bit. And they already said they want to utilize Austin Eckler just a little bit less, all right? He already said, it came out in so many interviews, he would appreciate if he's the guy that gets a little bit less touches so he can stay fresher. He wants to last longer. So we might get a little bit of a downturn this year from Austin Eckler. I'm not paying that price for him. I'd rather get CMC. I'd rather get Bijan Robinson. Nick Chubb has big upside this year. Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, all these guys in that mix, Jonathan Taylor, all these guys in that mix have RB1 overall upside this season. And Austin Eckler, I'm going to stay away from him this year. In round 2, the guy you want to avoid. Yes, this one out of all of them might bite me in the butt, but I'm going to bank on the fact that the Raiders are just the Raiders here. And you have Devonta Adams is going to be a must avoid and a huge major warning this year for your fantasy football drafts. I know he's been a bankable dude every year, all right? If we're going back in history, since 2017, he's been a top 10 wide receiver. The key component here for Devonta Adams here is yards per reception. He's a guy that can go deep and go win it for you time in and time out. He's a very precise route runner, but he's a guy that is definitely mainly used going down the field, stretching the field, creating mismatches. Devonta Adams needs a guy that can throw him the football deep. Pretty much Aaron Rodgers. Same thing with Derek Carr. Both of these guys are very familiar with Devonta Adams and were able to stretch the field and throw bombs down the field last season and pretty much his whole entire career. All right. So now what you're looking at in Devonta Adams, as you can see, his average target distance is 11.8. His deep targets is number 2 in the league. He needs the ball deep. That's where he wins consistently. All right. Obviously, he can win short, but he is super, super dangerous going down the field, locating those deep balls. And what you got is Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a huge mismatch here. It is horrible. If you're looking at his average yards per attempt is 7.9 yards. Either Devonta Adams is going to have to come closer to get these receptions, or he's not getting the ball at all. Not to mention that it was a key factor about deep balls, all right? Deep ball completion percentage is number 26 in the league, 32%. That is horrible. Like I said, it is a very key factor for Devonta Adams to get the ball deep down the field. Jimmy Garoppolo cannot do that. Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that benefits off of play action. He needs a run game. So you got tons of turmoil here with the Las Vegas Raiders. You have Josh Jacobs, who is holding out and most likely going to hold out all the way deep into August. He's going to come back super, super late for this team because him and Devonta Adams were uninspired this season. You had Derek Carr that left. That is Devonta Adams' best friend. He leaves and goes to New Orleans. And now you're putting in a situation of talented stars here in Adams and Josh Jacobs getting stuck with a quarterback that is not going to propel them to the next level. At least Derek Carr was competent. So not only did Jimmy Garoppolo can't throw the ball deep, you have Jimmy Garoppolo with accuracy issues. All right. Number 31 in the league in accuracy. That is embarrassing. So Devonta Adams this season, yes, I get it. He's been super, super consistent each and every year. This year, I do not see him finishing as a top 5 wide receiver, probably not even top 10, because I believe that this Raiders team is going to be god awful. This team is already trending towards being bad, and it doesn't help all this negative news coming out of Las Vegas. Josh Jacobs has already left the team. He's left Las Vegas. He doesn't even care about the contract. I guarantee you it's going to be late, deep into August, maybe beginning of September, that you'll see Josh Jacobs going back. So if there's no running game working, that means there's not going to be a good passing game for Jimmy Garoppolo to work off of. And I'm going to avoid Devonta Adams this year. in round 3, the guy you want to avoid, yes, is going to be his teammate in Josh Jacobs. I just spoke about him when I was talking about Devonta Adams. Josh Jacobs is going to be a must-avoid this year. Obviously, we have the contract talks. You have the holdout. Josh Jacobs has already left the team. He is super pissed. He wants his money, all right? And the Raiders are not committed to him full term, all right? So it's going to come down at the end of the wire pretty much here, and that's going to hamper Josh Jacobs. If Josh Jacobs is not in training camp getting ready for the football season, that's only going to make things worse. Since the fact Josh Jacobs finished as RB3 last year, all right, he had a record 340 attempts, his record 340 attempts last year, over 1,600 yards, 53 receptions, 400 receiving yards. The key component here is those rush attempts, all right? If we go back in history of running backs that have over 300 carry seasons, it never bodes well the year after, all right? All right, if you're looking at read this article here, to nobody's surprise, injuries are the #1 reason why so many 300-plus carry running backs fail to sustain consistent production from one year to the next. Of the last 60 running backs who experienced a decrease in fantasy scoring following their 300-plus carry season, 38 of those 60 running backs, 63%, played in fewer games the following year. With 21% of that 38, with 21 of those guys of that 38 missing 3 or more contests. Of 44 running backs who saw their fantasy production drop from 50 or more points following their 300-plus carry season, 54% appeared in fewer games the next year, while 47% played in at least 3 less matches, okay? So this is a big thing here, a big factor for Josh Jacobs. You're putting huge draft capital in the guy that is not going to be ready for the season, obviously not motivated on this team, and a team that's probably going to finish dead bottom at the end of the AFC West as well. Every other team in that division has taken their game or added something that's going to make them a contender in the AFC. The Las Vegas Raiders have added zilch, all right? So it does not bode well for Josh Jacobs. They lost their quarterback. You're bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a big downgrade from Derek Carr, all right? So this round 3, Josh Jacobs is a must-avoid as well. In round number 4, the next guy you must avoid at all costs, this might be the lock of them all, is Naji Harris. Naji Harris is just a hog. He's just a hog. He's getting touches. That's all it is, but he does nothing with his touches. If you look at the season where he was number 6 overall, where he had 307 rush attempts, 1,200 rushing yards, look at his yards per carry. Under 4 yards per carry. He had 74 receptions, 467 yards. That is only because of Ben Roethlisberger. That is the only reason why he finished where he finished. He had so many touches and did nothing with them. It was just an accumulance of points. That's all it was. That's not going to happen again. He's not going to get dead arm Ben Roethlisberger coming back in 2023 to pepper him with targets. All right. Kenny Pickett is the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers now, and as you can see, you saw a decrease. You saw less yards, less rush attempts, and less receptions. That is going to continue as this team is growing around Kenny Pickett. All right, Naji Harris has no explosiveness. If we want to go into factors why I'm telling you and guaranteeing you the fact that Naji Harris has no upside here other than what he's given, that is it. He's not taking the ball anywhere else. Look at his efficiency across the board. His true yards per carry, number 59 out of all running backs. That is horrible, 3.7. His yards per touch is 4 yards per touch. That is number 52 out of all running backs. And you're paying 3rd, 4th round for this guy. Breakaway run rate, number 51. A 2% chance of him breaking away and taking the ball all the way to the end zone, or at least to the 10-yard line. That's not happening. Breakaway runs, number 29. He's not going anywhere. Naji Harris has no speed, okay? His yards created per touch, number 55. Only 2 yards created per touch. That is god awful. And he can't even run block. A key factor on third downs. This is the reason why Jaylen Warren is coming into the mix here and being a factor, because he's more productive yards per carry and he can run block. That is a big factor if you want to protect Kenny Pickett. He's number 55 out of all running backs. And then if you want to look at formation specific, stuffed runs, this is a huge stat here. Top 10 in the league with stuffed runs. Defenses are converging on Naji Harris and stuffing them at an alarming rate, okay? This is just a clear-cut must avoid. Do not take Naji Harris at his price. If you're looking right now, Naji Harris is tier 3 alongside of Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, guys that are explosive, guys that have breakaway run speed. You can get Naji Harris, literally someone that's very similar. Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers in tier 4, James Conner, he's been the top 10 running back the last 2 seasons, and he's been going in round 8. Why would you pay for someone in round 4 when you get the same exact thing in round 8? David Montgomery is in a great position in Detroit. He has upside to getting tons of touches in the red zone. Not to mention Alvin Kamara, or even Antonio Gibson with Eric Bieniemy, how he's going to be utilized in the offense in screens and utilized in other facets in that offense, all right? So just please do not take Naji Harris. I'd much rather you wait or take another position, all right? In round number 5, the guy you want to avoid this year will be George Kittle at his current ADP. His ADP is 42.6. If we're going by our redraft leagues, that's pretty much the 3rd to 4th round. That is pretty high for George Kittle. Almost a little bit too high for George Kittle. Almost that range where TJ Hawkins is bona fide right behind of Justin Jefferson. But the reason why I'm telling you to avoid George Kittle was because he had an anomaly season. If we're looking at his total career of work here, last season, the key factor here was 11 touchdowns. That was astronomical. Brock Purdy came in and definitely boosted his TD numbers, all right? Right now, Brock Purdy is supposedly supposed to be the quarterback week 1. We are not sure. He's still injured. So there's big question marks there. Will it be Trey Lance? Will it be Sam Darnold? Will Brock Purdy come back and be the same guy? We do not know, all right? So if we're looking at all the other seasons of George Kittle, from 2017, 2 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 5, 2, 6, and then you have this big spurt of 11. That is the only reason why he finished as the number 2 tight end fantasy points per game, all right? That is the only reason why. Everything else, other than the first 3 seasons where he's bursted onto the scene and really was at his prime production, George Kittle is a phenomenal blocker. That's going to be a factor here. You have target competition in Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And the main factor here in the receptions is going to be Christian McCaffrey. The guy that's going to be taking all those short yardage routes is going to be Christian McCaffrey, where George Kittle was. Of course, George Kittle can run down the seam, but it is more important that they get the ball in Christian McCaffrey's hands because he's more creative with the ball in his hands, all right? And since 2018, you've seen literally a decrease in fantasy points per game each and every single season, all right? So for this year, at his current ADP, George Kittle is not worth his price, all right? If we're looking at redraft, you're getting a little bit of a better value, maybe, but I still don't agree with it. 65 overall for George Kittle. I think that's too much. I like guys around him. I'd much rather have Justin Herbert. I'd much rather have Deontay Johnson. I'd much rather have Dallas Goedert. If we're looking at the other tight ends, just wait for guys that are in better situations, who's going to receive less target competition. Like I just spoke about, Dallas Goedert right here at pick 69. We can go down even further. Kyle Pitts. He pretty much is 1A and 1B in that offense for Atlanta Falcons. If we go down a little bit further, Darren Waller, he's the number 1 option for the New York Giants now. If we go down a little bit more further, you got Pat Freiermuth all the way at pick 91, who is target fed in that Pittsburgh offense. He's the number 2 in that offense. It goes Deontay Johnson, it goes Pat Freiermuth, and then you got the deep guy in George Pickens. All these guys here are better value plays than George Kittle at his current ADP right now at 42. All right. So that will be part 1 of the Do Not Draft 1 through 5. Part 2 is going to be coming out very soon from round 6 all the way to 10. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetsJetsD. And guys, if you want to know the must-buys for this year in your drafts, then go to that link down below.